261. More than asserting our rights as families, the suit which we parents filed this morning points a finger at the forces that are reshaping the hearts and minds of our children. The suit brings together parents who want to pull the plug and stop the devices that are capturing our children when we are not there to hold their hand. For what has sex ed done to us since they were planted in this country 30 years ago? From a culture that cherishes children, robust families, decency, integrity of the body, respect for parents, and holy fear of God. The person in the street today thinks that couples should have only 2 children, that we are almost bursting at the seams because of unwanted pregnancies, that morality is relative and sex can be a topic for group dynamics in the classroom. Why do many youngsters today trifle with their bodies? Why do most couples today choose not to marry? And why do many marriages fail? And why are we governed by policies that are hostile to new births? And why have birth rates in this country significantly decreased? Our young population has metamorphosed into an age whose mindset is a refusal of all moral limitations in the sphere of human sexuality. In an environment where one hears and sees condom ads on primetime programming every single day, where ads splash contraceptives in the guise of family planning, it is almost impossible for young people to assume the enduring sacrifices on which stable marriages and families are built. And the system is almost succeeding. After all, the sex ed program was designed, according to DepEd, to change the lifestyles, the behavior, the attitudes and values of our Filipino children in sexuality, quote unquote. In other words, to draw the hearts and souls of our children into the vortex of a contraceptive materialism. By the way, this program is funded generously by the United Nations Fund for Population Activities, or UNFPA. Finally, let us use a new term for sex education. They use population education. Today, DepEd calls it life skills-based education. Lately, another official offered a new term, gender education. As parents who treasure our children, we shall fight against any continuing onslaught in whatever chameleon-like language it is. We shall also consider putting together a nationwide mechanism for parents and parent associations so that DepEd first has to them. After all, we are the first and primary teachers of our children.
The comprehensive sex education program of the Department of Education and similar programs by any other components, despite the non-passage of the demonic reproductive health bill, which mandates, among others, the teaching of sex education to children from grade 5 up to 4th year high school. Why is the Department of Education aggressively bent on introducing a much more comprehensive education programs, worse than the already reprehensible one they have already been teaching long ago to our children? This June integrated into practically all subjects. Let us ask ourselves, why do children need to begin studying sex early in life, as early as kindergarten, and then continue a comprehensive study of it throughout the school years, even unto university? How long does it take how to use a condom and a birth control pill? How long does it take to describe abortion and where to get them? Could not all practical contraceptive information be given to children and teenagers in one day at the most, if that's what they want? Why then the Department of Education, not as sex educators, insist that children need a course instruction in sex education for a period much longer than to study to become an engineer, a nurse, or even a doctor? The answer is because sex education is only a course in systematic behavior modification designed to change the child's entire belief system. In fact, when Alan Guttmacher, former president of the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, an affiliate of the #1 abortion organization in the world, International Planned Parenthood Federation, of which the Family Planning Organization of the Philippines is a member, was asked after the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion in 1973, how we would ensure that abortion would never again become illegal, he answered with two words: sex education. If sex education were beneficial, why do nations that sex education and contraceptives continue to experience a rapidly escalating rate of teen pregnancy and an exploding AIDS epidemic? The glaring truth is that researchers around the world substantiate the fact that the more killer contraceptive programs are aimed at the young, the more pregnancies, abortions, promiscuity, sexually transmitted disease, and cancer of the cervix results. As famed author Thomas Sowell said in his article, The Big Lie, published in the 1991 issue of Forbes magazine, before sex education program began, teenage pregnancy was declining for more than a decade. This long decline then reversed and teenage pregnancy soared as sex education spread pervasively throughout its world. Well-known child psychologist Dr. Rhoda L. Loran has also declared that 30 years ago, I and many other child analysts might have enthusiastically endorsed sex education because we believed at that time that emphasis on sexual knowledge could do no harm, only good. We have since learned that it is harmful to force sexual preoccupation on children. Forcing of sexual preoccupation on the elementary school child is very likely to result in sexual difficulties in adulthood, and it can lead to disturbed behavior in childhood, end quote. Quotes and studies given by sex educators themselves prove beyond a shadow of doubt that comprehensive sex education leads to increased premarital sex and use of killer contraception, that this contraception fails at an astonishing rate, especially for teenagers, and therefore leads to more, not less, teen pregnancy and abortion, and thus resulting to, among others, loss of self-esteem and other self-destructive behavior in teenage boys and girls. Even the Alan Guttmacher Institute, the research arm of IPPF, has found that prior exposure to a sex education course is positively and significantly associated with early onset of sexual activity. Indeed, sex educators who want to corrupt and destroy the minds of our children have chosen their battlefield well. The school system, which is a natural indoctrination ground, and they have correctly identified the Achilles heel of our youth, their sexual instinct. And more condemnable, they are introducing it at a crucial period in the child's life, the latency period, or the years of innocence, which is between 5 and 12 years old. During this period, the sexual urges of the child are latent or dormant, affording the child the opportunity to develop his own resources, his beginning physical and mental strength, and where energies are directed toward learning. It is well to remind the Department of Education that contrary to their claim that children, especially at puberty and adolescence, cannot control their sexual urges, they actually feel insulted when they are told that they can't control their sexual desires. Our children are certainly not animals. The fact is, if children are left alone, they are chased. They develop interests in other areas that make them well-rounded adults later in life. But if sexual information is interjected at this time in their lives, it erodes their interest in other things and forces them on their bodies. Indeed, it is incomprehensible for the Department of Education and other government and non-government organizations promoting sex education that while children are having a hard time learning crucial subjects like math and science, they would instead introduce a sex education. Granting that there is now an increased incidence of premarital sex and teenage pregnancies, we don't solve our wrong by another wrong, worse than the problem. What we need is a massive moral and spiritual regeneration. As Pope Pius XII has said, there is no great secret why an increasing number of young people are unchaste. It is not sexual ignorance, but spiritual and moral deprivation. Thank you very much.